Countless studies has been carried on this same topic, polarization, and everything that is around. Polarization in today's society is equal to radicalization or extremism. The social fragmentation that this drug is causing and the growth that is reaching. And the worst part of this drug, of this addiction, is that it's hidden behind something that apparently it's normal because everyone does it, the digital platforms. To whom it may concern. Polarization. Polarization has become the hidden drug of 2023. Oddly enough, polarization is a term widely used, but at the same time, it's one of the concepts that polarizes society the least. And the general consensus is that over the recent decades, it has risen, becoming a problem that needs to be taken in consideration, and it is considered a risk for society as how we know it today. Countless studies has been carried on this same topic, polarization, and everything that is around. Number of cases, all the causes, the consequences, the social fragmentation that this drug is causing, and the growth that is reaching in today's world. My name is David, and today I'll try to summarize and make it as easy as possible for you, for us, and for everyone to understand this topic. This is why we are here in Common Sense, my podcast where I try to bring studies and research and summarize it in the easiest way so you and I can actually understand it. Nevertheless, it's a good opportunity to remind you that these topics are always extracted from a scientific source. I'm just replicating and putting my speech into it. You're free to comment down below and approach to me so we can actually debate and further expand any of it. So, without further delay, let's jump right into this comprehensive topic that it brings a lot of debate, a lot of controversy, and a huge problem for every one of us. Polarization. Polarization in today's society is equal to radicalization or extremism, and constitute a component of public discourse. It conditions the way in which the information is interpreted, the message that is being sent it, and how we social people decode it in our lives. And polarization is not that. Polarization is debating, is giving someone a bit of your opinion, understanding a bit more of his opinion. But as of today, polarization denotes a extremism of reaffirming our beliefs, what we say, after we participate in a debate about anything. The conclusion is who won it, who was right. The evidence, the interpretations, everything that was available doesn't matter. It matters who won it. And this extreme interaction between two sides is something to be worried about. And this is why I want to bring it today. Radicalization is not what we should aim for. Polarization is something natural of the human being. We tend to lean in one side or the other, but extremes shouldn't ever be considered, ever. There is a lot of topics and branches that comes out of the polarization term. We're gonna go through several of them and we're gonna try to understand them. But for this one, when someone gives you his evidence of truth, his arguments, don't allow them to force your own belief, but think it in a way of modifying the reality. You're not 100% right, neither the other person, the counterpart. But use the ethical mechanism involved in a conversation, in the human nature, to avoid the extreme of polarization. Please. The first point that I want to cover overall is the ideological polarization and the affective polarization, because those two terms are not the same. The studies show that our opinion publicly is much more extremistic than that same opinion expressed in private. We tend to exaggerate and express publicly things way more than the actual reality. Out of a grain of salt, we build a mountain without nothing to support it below, because that's the exaggeration that we do. That's the ideological polarization. We tend to put things in the extremes. But privately, things are the other way around. We don't put that much weight on those same problems. This is a reflection of the human being, of how we want to be seen by others, rather than how do we really want to see being seen by our inner circle, the close ones. There is a quote that this is about quotes. Today is going to be a lot of quotes of Garmendia and Leon of 2021. They done this research, and they say that political party spoken persons tend to defend more radical and watertight positions than those that they express in private. This is the counterpart, and this is why we actually do the other way around. Those political persons, those speakers that we see publicly, do put a lot more effort on their opinion publicly than they do in private. So we tend to copy and reproduce what others are doing. But they do it in a justified way, and we do it based on what we think is right, not based on the reality. And this is something to actually consider. Because the social polarization, which is the topic that is most addictive to actually get attached to, is that need of us, of humans, to be aligned, to be trusted, to partially delegate that judgment and that responsibility on someone else's shoulders. So, in a way, by doing that public announcement and being so controversial, you just justify whatever you say based on others said it, on this is publicly what we all think. That is the social polarization that is super prejudicial for everyone. It's causing a great disease in our minds, in people. And this is obviously carried on social media, because on private, on conversation with friends, with family, we don't take things to the extreme because others will stop us. On social media, there is a lot more freedom. Then there is a second one. There is this problem that is called moral absolutism, the morality, and this is so funny. Dixiana in 2019 did the research and discovered that behind many of those dynamism of polarization in public, there are deep issues that they are not actually being interpreted, they are not being expressed. Those people who publicly put his opinion to the extremes has other problems inside their households, inside their lives, inside themselves, that are not able to communicate publicly. So what they do is take that energy and put it somewhere else. And this is that morality of saying, if I'm having to go through this and I can say anything, at least on this topic that is public, I'll kill anyone, or I'll go beyond what is expected and is logical to actually achieve it. The moral absolutism is crazy. Because emotions are an evolution and of reactions, of physically identity. And if ourselves as humans are not happy with the way we live, with our daily life, with our work, what we tend to do, since based on psychology, is to express it and throw it publicly instead of understanding and working in ourselves before going into the masses. This is a tendency that for more and more people is starting to become normal. They consider that the judgments have to be, so the judgment, what they think needs to be the value of the knowledge. What they think is the truth. And this needs to be put up there immediately. So, since that's his opinion and it cannot be counterparted, it's the truth, and therefore there is no subject to discussion. That's it. That's how they think. They are reluctant to take into account the evidence. They will never take an argument and allow in a debate to be slightly modified. There is not 1% of probability that their opinion would change, no matter who is talking. So they're literally mental block saying one speech, because that speech based on his opinion is the truth. And this more absolutism is what is bringing to more and more people and giving more and more problems. And then we have people who, of course, are more convinced, read a bit more, and then those are the ones who we see in the public debates. Those are the ones that try to get findings so they can radicalize it and put a scientific or a support behind their words. Those are the ones who are obviously involved in public speeches, in political parties, in debates. Those are the militants. But these are people who kinda have supported their ideas. Kinda. They become polarized, they are radical in their thoughts, but they have some basement to actually keep going. But there's one thing, one key thing. Those are not the radical type of guys, of people who we should be afraid of. Those have parties, how they're thinking, blah, blah, blah. The confined ones, those are the ones that we need to be worried about. Confined people are so much worse on terms of polarization and radicalization than anyone else. Because they have been going through those consequences. They have a change in their life and that ended in disagreement in several contexts. Therefore, now that they changed their life and they have been confined for so long, they are like a ticking bomb ready to explode and ready to throw everyone and fight for everything. That is not what he has formed in his mind. No change of option. This convinced attitude means that instead of allowing disagreement that brings debate and generates a benefit effect out of it, they will strengthen and polarize to the extreme their own positions. And this attracts more people. This is the drug. They hook into his own belief so much that it's addictive. And this addiction, they see that someone else is following and they keep going and increasing and making it bigger. This is the problem. This is why it's a really powerful and destructive drug that cannot be considered or that cannot be permitted. Then there is this digital mediation, which is like communities, the ideologies, the aesthetics, the topics, the rivalries between two groups that also kind of push everything to become public and a topic of debate. And although individually those cognitions are not much, once they are group, they become something to be aware. And this is what happened years back, but with social networks, this has catalyzed the phenomenon of polarization to the extreme, because now communities could be thousands of millions of people, so big, bigger than ever bigger than centuries ago. And this has changed, has made the scientists to need to change a topic and a term, I would say, more specifically. Up to recent years, these kind of communities they would call epistemic bubbles. They were those relevant voices who were left out of society, but they form a new group with those who thought the same or were apart from society. Those create their groups and become fighting for their idea of justice, truth, or whatever. Okay, it's like, for example, Catholics and Protestants. This is kind of an example, so you actually have an idea. But this coverage has evolved. Again, in 2020, rename it to epistemic bunkers. They went from bubbles to bunkers because social media created such a safe space for people to say whatever they wanted, not be left out, join any community or multiple communities without any consequences, that they, in a way, felt secure and safe inside those epistemic bubbles that now evolve into bunkers because no one can break into, because they have so much power and no one is censoring anything because of freedom of speech, that they're there safe in a bunker, becoming more and more radical in his polarization's ideas. I'll leave it there. And finally, all this mechanism, all the psychology that we are using, because there is a lot of psychology in this report, bring us to our current crisis, because this is for me a crisis, and for many people that we at least need to be aware. At least that's the bare minimum. The media, the fundamental parties, all these leaders has come to a point where they are no longer relevant, or so relevant that they were the number one priority. There is now the people that has discrepancies with their opinions. The respect to the constitution that there was like several big parties has left because of lack of trust and these new communities in social media. So this has become something like, if we take out the intermediaries that were those parties, those leaders, and now there are just communities and groups, it's either you're in the wave and then you are giving your opinion, contradicting everything, or you are being looked as a weird guy. On 2023 and on the following year, if we don't give opinions, if we don't contradict, if we are not agreeing with what you're saying, and you're into a constant fighting, defending your ideas and pursuing someone other else ideas, you are left out as the weird guy who does not know how to be included in society. And this is dangerous, because not being an extremism doesn't mean you don't have an idea, that you cannot take part in a conversation. It means that there is some common sense that you are able to apply in the logic. And it's neither white or black, it's gray. 2023 is becoming dangerous, especially on this topic in social media. Social networks. That's a tough one to say. A drug that become, where did it first started? Where has it grown? Well, we are not here to base that and to judge it. We are here to take in consideration the thousands of research, daily Google research, the topics, the years, and the evolution during the periods. We've been talking a lot about polarization, but it's important that you know where all of this comes from. This is from LLYC, a study made from them with a volume of information that is over 600 million tweets between 2017 and 2022. We expect topics like abortion, like racism, like freedom of speech, death penalty, a lot of them, over like more than 10 countries, Latin countries, United States, Spain, Portugal. So big group of population, that is how I say, that thanks to all the artificial intelligence development is sufficient enough to give us at least a picture of the moment and a tracking of the evolution in history, those conversations, of how biased opinions have changed, has evolved. So we are able to identify a new opportunity, an area to work for, and to build organizations and to build projects so we can interact without having to fall down again into the same topic of being radical in polarization. Deep study, a lot of methodology, a lot of measurements with several algorithms, interconnecting opposite communities, measuring the probability from one community to reach another one, to get into a fight, to interfere, to progress in a topic, in a debate, to get those metrics so we can actually have a reality. And this is this study. This is a lot that they went through. It's a big one, but I'm so grateful that we can analyze and understand these topics that I'm trying to bring in the most simplistic way. It's hard, but this is where we need to go. Because when we talk about addiction, we're talking about something serious. Addiction is not something that should be said like that. It's an addiction. It's important. And the addiction and the analogy to drug is set based on one element, social media. We all are aware of the impact of social media in our daily lives, the amount of time we spend, how much we compare. Like platforms like TikTok has launched a 1 hour limit for kids. They also know it, and they are designed in a way that they are addictive. Done studies by looking at gambling machines, casinos, all of the sounds, colors, all of that. And the worst part of this drug, of this addiction, is that it's hidden behind something that apparently it's normal because everyone does it, the digital platforms. The literature again goes way back in time, far and beyond, and has studied topic effects such as loss of control, absorption, loss of mental levels, severe alterations of the person's daily functioning are some of them. And this is crazy how social media is causing things like this and no one is talking about them. But there is one more thing that social media is bringing into the addiction component. Impulsivity, emotional discomfort, exaggeration, and the search for strong emotion. What people look in social media, what they want to achieve there, are strong emotions. This is why it's a drug. Social media is designed so people look for strong emotions that interchange ideas, concept, images, whatever. Sadness, happiness, doesn't matter. But they are constantly looking for emotions, daily, scrolling, 30 seconds. Tell me no, this is not a drug. People go look for cocaine, for heroin, because they have that dopamine in their body saying, I need it. Smoke does it too. You need to smoke, and if you don't, your body is itching, you're constantly nervous, you don't know what to do. Social media is literally that. Physiologically and psychologically. Okay? It may not cause as much harm as normal drugs do, but there is a component of similarity between both of them. This is why we should consider it a drug. One kind or the other, doesn't matter, but one. And there's a neuroscientist called Mariano Sigman. He's the author of Power's Words. It's an incredible book, super recent, 2022. And he even said it's difficult to measure the exact risk of addiction. In some cases well known, in some cases not, but in others is the polarization, what comes afterwards. And not knowing what is going on, the incomprehension of the topic, is what can cause a greater problem that we actually think. War started because people didn't understood each other, and we invaded countries, and communities kill people because they don't understood what's going on. We are kinda in the same exact situation that when many wars happen and are happening now. Wars happen because there are a lack of connection. You don't know what is going on, and neither do you have an explanation for it. Social media is pretty much the same. So, if we keep failing at understanding what actually is driving those groups, those epistemic bunkers, to constantly hate each other to an extent that is unbelievable, that they are destroying themselves and everyone around them, and that the only way, what is the only way to settle this? How are we going to solve our problems if no one is able to give 1% of his opinion to the other part? Then is social media the next battlefield, and then we're going to get into war? Because it looks like a real risk for you and for me. A drug like polarization can cause many problems. And it seems like no one is even thinking about it in their lives. I mean, a bit of logic, a bit of common sense into these topics, into the conflict that it can provoke. Or maybe we're just addicted to conflict and all we want is that. Then we're on the right path. This is tough. This is tough. Going over, studying it, preparing it was tough. Trying to explain it is even harder. But it needs to be done. Because there is a progressive increase in this addiction. And if at least someone start hearing this and we start thinking about it, we may change 1% of it. It's not going to be the solution for the world, but it's a 1% increase. And that is what matters. I hope it, I truly believe it. I want to continue. I really want to continue by asking the following question. Is this craving for strong emotions, this constant need to reaffirm our own ideas, the constant fighting, confronting each one attempting to assert their own thinking, what actually is causing this polarization? Is this progressive increasing of addiction and a reality that is going to stay? I believe it is. And the data actually shows this, because if we look at the countries that were analyzed, Spain, Portugal, Latin America, for example, on the pandemic, things were normal, but those are outliers of the actual truth. But after the pandemics, it has a progressive 8% of increase year after year. In the United States, it accelerated to a 13%. More than half of the entire world is growing at around 10% annual increase in polarization, in radicalization. A 10% of the world is getting more and more radical as years passed, one after the other after the other. Just the Ibero-American countries, by themselves, grow at 39% from 2017 to today's topic, to today's days. 40% more radical. Then you get to the point that who is progressive and who is conservative, thinking wise, in ideology. If we all are going in one direction, the line that separates those two parties, technically, disappear. Everyone is the same. This is like a beehive brain. We don't have our own ideas. We just follow. It's fine, we just follow. Countries are getting more polarized. How is that? And then if you go look and go even deeper, look more data, you see how in the recent years there is the rearmament of far-right groups that are organizing themselves. Of course they do. They are analyzing the data as well, and they've seen how this is becoming a topic that they can take in consideration. Those militants, that's not what they do because they study for it, they prepare, they have a bit of thinking, are seeing that more and more repressed individuals are pushing because of social media. So they can now again groups again and use them and bring it into their bunkers. You now start seeing how one topic aligns with each other. And no longer conservative dominates. It's all progressive radical guys. And we translate this to everyday topics. Because funny enough, no matter how minor an issue is, doesn't matter how small it is always evaluated as an object of discussion. People will find a way to discuss, to criticize, to extremize everything, no matter what the topic is. The scale of social debate has become zero. Everything now is a debate. All it takes is two people who want it, and a magic touch of those networks to happen. Yeah, some issues are more deeply rooted in our culture, and then they will appear and still emotions. They're of course part of ourselves. Topics like abortion, like racism, those are really important ones that should be talked about. But the rest of one is like everything is a constant bad fight. We just want to get our guns out there and show how brave we are, how powerful we feel speaking in a wall of text that is social networks. And the real problem here is that we believe that this is focalized on a few topics. Those who are most talked achieve the higher volume of conversation. Those are the more polarized ones. But that is fake. The volume of conversation is not related to the level of polarization. When in the United States, George Floyd was murdered, you could think about that and see that it was super polarized and people were gonna kill each other, probably. And data shows that it was the lowest point in polarization of the topic in the country. Because everyone was talking about it, but in the same direction, with thinking, with rationality, analyzing things properly. Once things settled down and calm, we saw how when the volume was so much smaller, the polarization became again to be higher and higher. So you see, volume does not relate to the level of polarization. The smaller groups who are constantly talking on small percentages of things, those are the dangerous ones. Because small plus small plus small plus small becomes all of a sudden huge. That is how we are becoming, and that's why small battlefields is what evolved into a war of controversy, of radicalization, and of all of this. And then this is the cultural wise, and this is why I'm saying, depending on the country, some topics create more controversy than others. In Spain, for example, is feminism. That's the highest one. In the last few years, climate change has taken the fastest growth and become an issue to be considered. Latin America, for example, because of their situation, is more the freedom of expression, the human rights. And it's not that much the feminism. That the debate, that's the last one. Brazil, for example, it's all about racism. And that is leveraged now by progressive. The freedom of expression is really important for them as well. Then we have Mexico, who's an exception. The level of polarization in Mexico is super low. They are obviously comparing and try to fight for the rights, for the expression. But this is more justified, or at least data show that this prominent sentiment is justified because there is a lot of secret silence in the society. Many of their journalists get assassinated. There is a lot of many drug cartels, a lot of abuse and violation that is undercover by the authorities. So they need to lay it down that this is one of the key issues, which is another problem, but to be covered in another occasion. So we are coming to the end. Like I have more data. Have a couple of key values. So these is our sentences. These are the headlines. The level of polarization of conversations in Iberoamerica has grown by 39% in the last year. 5 years, this is what we said. Okay? And the USA shows a growing trend, discussion by two unique milestones. Those two unique milestones was the George Floyd phenomena, when he was killed, and then the ruling of the Supreme Court against abortions that generated a broad consensus in the rejection. Those are two big hits that caused polarization to rise to the roof and become so much of a problem that it is today in many ways. If we want to actually think about the addiction of conversation in those countries grew by 11% after the pandemic. We are addicted to being conversations. And obviously, always, the level of conversation that is shown year over year is paired with being radical and not allow anyone to shape our ideas. Then we have the topics. We said that this is not about the topics that are big ones, because this translates into everything. It's the addiction to be controversial. It's like if we are not controversial, we didn't exist and no one knows about our existence. That is a huge issue. This is why some parts of social media I hate it. I hate social media. I've always said it. And the fact that I myself am doing this is to in a way to try to change it and to put my word out there and show how things are not as beautiful as we may think, and show that by working here you can actually achieve something and mask some of the fakeness that this whole ecosystem has behind it, which is huge. Let me tell you, it's huge. There's a few more topics, and the topic that follows is this one: is the networks and the media. What was first, the egg or the chicken? What came first, the polarization of the networks? Who caused what? The trigger, as they may say. Well, I think that's a debate that has no solution, has no answer. not even not even decision made by judges, laws or events. No one can actually put an ending or a point of start. No one knows. But I think it's time to stop and rethink. Because with the eruption on the polarization of internet, especially social networks, it's necessary to rethink or update how we theorize our agenda, especially in setting up opinions publicly. No matter, no, it's not no matter. Nowadays, opinions need to be rethinked and considered again before going public. And this is sad. I don't like it. But we cannot be brave. We cannot be confident that it cannot be misunderstood by someone that will get us in and make us into a big trouble. We don't know for sure. So it's time to rethink and reformulate. This is what we need to be aware of. Then, who started? Well, there is no evidence of what, when, how things started. There is no evidence. That in networks, things like this happen spontaneously. Generally, they do spontaneously. So, and if this happens, someone induced them. An individual, a society, a hidden government, third parties, who knows? There's no evidence. But that there is a trigger, it's clear. White clear, crystal clear. And if I have to put a name to the show, the artist, the number one is Twitter. Is Twitter, the social media, causing this? No. By being in Twitter, we are exposed to tensions, to lack of consensus, to always being in a controversy that our community will shake to the end of stories, to collect those amplified, super radical ideas, to feel like we cannot debate and whatever we say is wrong. Yeah, I've been in Twitter, we have that. Twitter don't cause polarization, but it's the medium and the channels through polarization grows and the channel that allows polarization and radicalization to still be open and alive. There is a quote there's a quote of Byung-Chul Han, again 2022, super recent, and says the following: is the disappearance of other, the inability to listen, and there is a quote about, well, not about, of Byung-Chul Han in 2022, super recent, that says, it's a disappearance of the other. It's the inability to listen, and not the algorithm personalization of the internet, what is responsible for the crisis of democracy and the human being as of today. And yeah, that is completely true. It's our inability to listen, to consider, to have common sense, which is all about disease. What makes us sheep. We just cover our ears, our eyes, and walk in a line. Someone is guiding us. Where is he going? What is he doing? We don't know. We're just following the rest of the sheep. We don't have inner strength to question things and allow ourselves to think and debate and grow. There is one study, one study about a model. The model of the emergence of affective polarization in the social media society. In this model that is directly situated and these tendencies, they investigated a group of politicals, of communities that were in tension, constant tension, and they reflect those tensions in networks. Whoever did it the most was the powerful loudspeaker. One guy always who was that power speaker. And then the rest of the people were just legions supporting the message of that guy. The guy who was stronger, higher voice, or whatever he did was the strongest one there, affect everyone else's polarization in a way that it become a legion of this one individual, of this one idea. So we are moving from humans to highly ideologized followers. This is the path we're going for. Are you gonna do that as well? Are you gonna become a ideologized follower with lack of brain? Then take out your brain. Go on auto mode. It's an autopilot society. Tell me if not, that's dangerous. So, with this, we're going to conclude the episode. But what's next? What should be done? What should we do? My goal, your goal, and our goal is not to be right or wrong. Is to try and describe this in the clearest perceptible way. Polarization is something to take in consideration, and we need to ensure that we, as responsible humans, can take this, not make it a drag for ourselves, and take charge of the responsibilities and for our own ones, obtain the information, and put it out there so we can all interchange, modify, and grow. That's what should be done. Not judging, but working together in post of growth and in post of the future. No matter how hard the argument is, no matter how you convinced you are, always leave room for doubt and thinking. That no matter how radical the idea was, listen to it. But don't say yes immediately. Let yourself time to proceed, to understand the information, and to move forward. With this last quote, we're going to finish today. Fernando Broncano argues that the following, or says the following. The novelty of polarization is not the cognitive dynamic itself, but that it has to come to structure our entire public space. Due to the systematic exploitations of our cognitive bias, then we cannot accept that the response should be merely individual, educational, or an awareness raising. The novelty of polarization, if there is something to become out of this ugly topic, is the novelty that is behind it. It's not about biasing everyone. It's about forming your idea via education, via whatever, but allowing always room to exploit, explore, and grow individually. Always using a logic, the logic of recommendation, the logic of learning, where no matter how you form your own opinions based on recommendation, based on whatever you said it, whatever you read, you leave room from learning. And the analogy is that friend who advised you to go to a museum or to a restaurant. You pay attention, you went there because you trust him. But once there, you saw how bad was it. You didn't like it, and you learned from it, you took those points, but you didn't radically went to him, fight about that idea that he was saying it was good. You just get your idea formed, you express it properly, and both in society and in groups move forward. Polarization has and have an effect on society unmeasurable. It is a drug that we use in our daily life. We don't even know when it started, how to stop it, or what to do. We've seen problems like depression, irritability, dependency, tension, social withdrawal, and the hate speech that accompany everything along the way. But this is not the end. We need to fight. We need to dare to think. We must continue in order or impose of responsibility to create a space, an environment that is there for conciliation, for peace, and for allowing others to feel like it's not about the extremes, but what is fine in the middle. This is my conclusion. And this is what I want to leave you with you today. I didn't do a great effort explaining it. I myself are still trying to learn, to process it, and to understand polarization. It's a topic that took a lot of me to present today. And it's a topic that I will constantly pay attention for the rest of my life. This is the beginning of my journey in this field, in this segment or this market. But it's a field and a position where I want to learn, where I want to be, and where I want to grow. I hope with this, you all grew too. You learn something and you progress in post of a better future. To whom it may concern, this is polarization, a drug that is dangerous and we need to pay attention for. I'll see you in the next one.